Welcome to the fifth episode of Adult Life as a Child. Today we're going to talk about getting lost. I remember going to sixth grade. I went to a new school. And I was going to a French school while living in Belgium. So I already knew I was going to be in the minority in my own country. And the other thing with going to that school is that in France, middle school starts in sixth grade. So they've got a year extra. And so I was going to the big school. And not only that, but that school was much further away than my elementary school, where I was going with my brother and that my mom would drive us to. Suddenly I had to take the tram and go further and walk on my own. And I'd never really gone anywhere alone before that. I'd never had my own independence, I guess. And so what my mom decided to do is that she took me in the car and we drove all the way to where the school was, and she showed me the bus stops, etc. And then she dropped me at the school and said, "There you go, find your way home. Now you know where you're supposed to go, you know the places, do it." And before letting me out of the car, she said something that stayed in my mind, which is, don't ask directions from someone who knows. Don't ask directions from someone who knows the way, because otherwise you have no chance of getting lost. Don't ask directions from someone who knows the way, otherwise you have no chance of getting lost. It's one of those sentences that just made no sense. Why the hell would you want to get lost? She just showed me the way. Why would I want to lose myself? And that sentence stayed in my mind throughout my teenage and my early 20s as I was traveling. When I arrived in South Korea, having had only a 24-hour notice to know I was going to fly there, I had no idea where I was going. I had no idea what was going to happen. The only book that I found that talked about Korea was from 1986, and we were in 2004. So it wasn't the newest thing, and it was back when the internet existed, but there was no such things as TripAdvisors and Airbnb, and nothing about Korea was available in English. So it was like going into the void. It was getting lost and knowing that that's all I could ever do for the length of that trip. And so for 6 weeks there, I just kept getting lost. I did everything I could to get lost, and that's how I ended up getting invited into a wedding. A Korean wedding. They invited me there. They put me in front so that I could take pictures. And then they sat me at the table, and I remember the bride, the groom, and the family came to my table, and they all bowed down to me and said, "Thank you, it's an honor to have you at our wedding." And I was like, what the fuck is going on? What are you talking about? Then somehow I got invited by a bunch of students of architecture who took me all the way to their university, which was 2 hours away from the city I was in. And they offered me food and accommodation, and they showed me around. They took me to temples that were far out of the tourist route. And all of that for nothing. They did never ask for anything. They wouldn't even let me pay for stuff. Whenever I tried to pay for anything, they would just push the money away. They would put the money back in my bags. And the more I was getting lost, the more I end up finding myself and other people and experiences and abundance of stories. In business, in the same way, very quickly, I've done stuff that didn't work. Just didn't work. When I got to Poland, I remember I started a company and I ended up restarting it 3 or 4 times before anything clicked. No, I'm actually lying. 3 or 4 times before I got a paid client. It started clicking. I had the first click on the second company, but I never got more than one click on that company. And then the third company, it just got there, but not quite money, and then it happened. In the years after university, I remember meeting a man called Marcus Orlovsky, and I heard him speak 3 times, and he's an incredible speaker. And he's got an incredible story. I mean, the guy ended up driving Formula One cars. He ended up owning 15 antique shops, and he redid a neighborhood of London. Ended up borrowing, if I remember well, over $1 billion. And after the third time of hearing him speak, I went to him and I said, Marcus, I love your talk. It's so inspiring to see everything you achieved, everything you succeeded. But surely you must have failed something, right? You must have failed stuff on the way. And I'm curious to know if you have any advice around failure. He got this very serious look, thought deeply, and he looked at me and said, yeah, if you're going to fail, fail quick. And that for me was the piece of the puzzle, I guess, that I needed to bring together with the getting lost. Is that getting lost and failing is not the same thing. Getting lost is part of a journey. Failing is about knowing when a road is a dead end and when it's time to come back and get another road. And it's important to fail quickly. It's important to try a lot of things and to get lost very often. Because the more often we do it over a short period of time, the easier it is to create a map in our mind of what's happening around us, what we like, what we don't like. And discovering things that we didn't know existed before. So what is the invitation for you today? What are you going to do with this? My first invitation is to go and get lost. Literally. Literally take the time over the next couple of weeks, over the next couple of days, to get lost in your city, in your town, in your village, wherever you live. Walk for half an hour, 1 hour, without a goal, without a direction. Just go wherever you know the least. And keep walking as far as you can. And then come back. And then try that again and again. Because when we do something physically, it helps us do it mentally and emotionally. Once you've done this physically, I'll invite you to get lost in your mind. One of the ways to get lost in your mind is dreaming. I want to invite you to dream about the most beautiful world your heart knows possible. what is that beautiful, magical world that you imagine living in, creating for yourself? And what I mean there is not a. What do I mean? Yeah, I think that what I mean is not wishing the world. So, what is the most beautiful world your heart knows possible? What is the most magical world that you can see? What kind of world would you like to create for yourself and to live in? And allow yourself to get lost in these ideas, to get lost in these thoughts, without needing to have an answer of how you get there, of how to make it happen, how to make it real. Allow it to get lost in the dream. And then the opposite of getting lost is knowing when you're not lost. So take a moment to make a list of everywhere in your life that you feel very confident about what's happening, where you're the opposite of lost, where you know for sure, where you have stability. And stability is often great, and we'll talk about stability in other videos. Today it's about getting lost. So what we're going to do is we're going to shake the stability. Pick 1, 2, or 3 elements or places where you're very confident, you feel very stable. You're the opposite of lost. And then for each one of those, find at least one way in which being sure of what's going on and having that stability is limiting you. And for each one of those, what is one thing you can do to create more uncertainty, to get more lost in that area of your life? To be put in a position in which you need to search again, in which you need to ask questions, in which you're not sure what is the right answer. One of the interesting ways that I've read this done in business is in Jack Welch's autobiography, Straight from the Gut. So Jack Welch was the CEO of General Electric, the youngest ever CEO of General Electric. And one of the exercises he got all the heads of each of the divisions that they have. So, General Electric is a conglomerate. So they've got different companies that do different things. And in each company, they've got a full package, CEO, etc. So he would get all the heads of these different companies and ask them where they are in the market. And what happens is that most of them would come back and say, well, there you go, we're number one in our market. We've got the biggest market share of our market. So the industry we're in, we sell the most, we're the biggest. We're the best. And Jack Welch said, okay, that's great. It's really cool. But if we're the best, then there's nothing we can do to improve. So he asked them to redefine the markets that they're in so that they don't have any more than 10% of that new market. So what does that mean in practice? For example, if you've got a train company, and you think, there you go, we're the number one train company in the country. Biggest market share. How do we redefine our industry to have a smaller market share? Well, one of the ways to do it is that we're not in the train business, we're in the transportation business. Now, if we get the transportation business, you've got to add airplane, buses, cars, etc., etc. And now the portion of that we have with our train company becomes a lot smaller. So it's about redefining where you feel confident and secure in a way that you can feel lost and insecure and not know. Because when you do that, you give yourself the permission and the space to ask questions and to seek answers. And there's a beautiful sentence in the Bible that is, seek and you shall find. If you don't seek, you don't find. I wish you to get lost, to not know where you are, to get uncertainty, and to feel new questions rising, to which you don't yet have answers. Keep getting lost, keep shining.